Morning. So late last night. I was trying to figure out. Look, do you want to come over or not? I was trying to figure out what what I was going to do today with videos because I had an idea for doing a video where I had all of my players with the favorite names ever. So guys named Jyrki, Pekka, Jarkko would be in there a lot. An example of that would be Jarkko Ruutu. I remember when Jarkko Ruutu came up as a rookie that we treated his name like Marco Polo. So you get bored at work, you just have one person yelling out his first name and another person yelling out the last name, and it works pretty well. Jarkko Varvio was another one. Oh, I loved his name. It was a shame he didn't stick with the Dell Stars. I just loved saying Jarkko Varvio. I remember Milan Hajduk when he was playing for the Czech team before he'd come over, and just loving the name Hajduk. Like it was two words, Heyduke, Hajduk. And or Hadouken. I would sometimes make it Milan Hadouken. So it was fun, and I thought I could make a team of that. But then I got looking through the magazine, got looking through the old player registers, and I was like, that guy drove me nuts. That guy. And I thought, you know what? You got to cleanse yourself first before you can feel good. And you do good, feel good. Where a video where you feel good, you look like I look like this right now. Like looking through player registers, I just look disgusted. Why do you come over here if you're disgusted? So, and you're not laying down. You just don't really want to be here. That's cheese sauce. It's mine. No, it's mine. Don't give me that look. So I came up with 12 forwards, 6 defensemen, and 3 goalies. And the rule was simple. If I had ever been angry watching them play, and then got angry again, probably again, they go on this list. And I encourage you to look back, fans of Oilers, Blackhawks, Montreal, Toronto, and let me know who your all-time team is. And, you know, having watched hockey for over 30 years, there's certain guys that I see their name and I go, huh. And it's not their fault. Very often it's a coach that has faith in them that he shouldn't. Or they're just put in a role they shouldn't be in. Or they probably should have been demoted to the American Hockey League, but the NHL club, whether it's Vancouver, Boston, or Dallas, they were determined that this guy was going to make it. Going to make it. This is going to work. Yeah. And it's frustrating as a fan watching it because you're like, oh, it's a reclamation project. Stop it. He's done. He's finished. Let him go. Let it end. Please let it end. All right. So number 1 on the list, going with Vancouver forward. You Oilers fans should understand this guy, Joseph Baranek. I was mildly interested when Vancouver picked him up, and then that interest turned to, I really want to shoot myself a lot of the games when I would watch him play. He played too many minutes. He was the opposing team's best chance for getting the Canucks to get called offside or for a shot to go wide of the net. And there were games where I'd watch and I go, oh, Baranek's winding up. I wonder where that puck's going to end up. Yep, over the glass. Yep. Oh, he's taking a shot. Oh, he missed the net. Oh, it's all the way down to the other end of the ice. That's talent. That's amazing. Go Baranek. What? Number 2 on the list is Roman Oksuta. Much the same as Baranek, and yet slower and bigger, and somehow more frustrating. Because I think Oksuta had more talent than Baranek. He just had even less of a desire to use it. And then other teams, in both Baranek and Oksuta's case, there were other teams who went, we'll take him. And I don't know why, because they were not good players. Jan Bulis is 3 on the list. I remember when Vancouver didn't keep him, and Canuck fans were kind of like, you're going to regret this. Bulis is going to sign somewhere else, get back to Hannes, and Bulis never came back. Even the year he had 20 goals, I spent most of that season yelling at the TV about Bulis. Those 20 goals were a mirage because he was... And number 2, that was the year that in the 07 playoffs, people kept telling me, well, you talk about Bullis all the time, but he's our best forward. And I'm like, and that's why we're losing. That's why we can't score, because Jan Bullis is our best forward. If Jan Bullis is your best forward, I mean, come on. If the when the Leafs get in the playoffs, this first round, and you hear people saying, man, Matt Martin is our best offensive forward out there, you're done. Okay? You're done. So when I heard Jan Bullis was Vancouver's best forward, and we still had the Sedins at that point, and we still had Naslund, I'm like, we're done. Number 4, Sergio Momesso. I've talked about Momesso before. Probably a really great guy. And he could score, and he was big, and he was tough as an ox. And then he'd take down penalties. And I called him Meathead a lot. There was a lot of games I'd be watching and be like, oh man, this game is just great. Just great. And don't mess it up. Don't, oh, Meathead, you're taking a penalty? Oh, come on. And number 5, and I'm doing the come on thing with him way too much right now. For Boston is Jimmy Hayes. I'll watch, and it'll be like Bergeron with the puck. Okay. Passes to Krejci. Again, all right, cool. Off to Hayes. Nope. No, I'm going to have to overrule that pass. That pass did not happen. Hayes, please give up the puck. Not to the other team. Oh, God, he gave it to the other team. And he's awkward to watch, and it's painful to watch. And it is upsetting that Riley Smith went to Florida and Jimmy Hayes went to Boston. So I like Riley Smith a lot. I even liked Riley Smith when he wasn't scoring for Boston because he was still doing other useful things. Hayes is not. Number 6 on the list is Zach Hamill, who didn't seem to ever want to be a hockey player. The whole way since he was drafted, it just felt like he'd rather be somewhere else doing something else. And his heart wasn't in it. And then Boston let him go, and I'm like, oh, thank God Boston got rid of him. And then it was, the Vancouver Canucks have invited Hamill to training camp. Wait, huh? No. And then on the Canucks message board, I saw, well, maybe Hamill just needs a new start. Yes, in a new sport or at McDonald's or Wendy's, not in hockey. He does not need he doesn't want to be a hockey player. He had no desire. None. I never saw it. Number 7, a current Boston Bruin as well, Brad Marchand. If only he had a good World Cup. And last season he was relatively clean. His last NHL season was relatively clean. Now that Julian's gone, I got a funny feeling the dirty play is going to get worse. Apparently Cassidy's encouraging more offensive play. He may misinterpret that to mean offensive play, like not goals, but sticks in the face and slew foots. I hope not, but he could. Would it be slew feet or slew foots? Because usually 2 foots is a feet. Right? Okay. Number 8, also a former Bruin, and thank God he said no to going to the Vancouver Canucks, and it's Craig Janney. Craig Janney, on behalf of the 1994 Vancouver Canucks, we would like to say, go to hell, and thank you. Thank you for not reporting to the Vancouver Canucks, for vetoing a trade from the St. Louis Blues, and thank you for Jeff Brown, because that's who the Canucks got instead. I did not like Craig Janney, and I remember when the Peter Nedved thing went down, and it was like, oh, well, Janney's coming back to Vancouver. He's a good center. And I had to keep telling people, no, he's not. Okay? They're like, he scores points. I'm like, that does not make him a good center. He is not. He was in Boston for years. I was very glad that he left. I used to say Craig Janney impersonated a hockey player. Wasn't really a hockey player. And I was very glad he vetoed that trade. I did a happy dance when he vetoed that. I didn't care if we got nothing instead. Nothing was better than Janney as far as I was concerned. Number 9, Brad Isbister. Oilers fans were like, is that the third Oiler? Yeah, I think that's the third Oiler so far. Yeah. I don't think Boulas played for Edmonton at any point. Yeah, I think that's the third Oiler. Isbister. Why? I just kept asking myself, and Nonis brought him in. I'm like, wait. Why? What? Because I'd already seen him be useless elsewhere. And I was like, why do we have Isbister? Why? And I would say that while he was on the ice. Why do we have him? Why is he here? Why is this happening? Why do I cheer for this team? 10, and this is where you get into, this guy's a really nice guy and it's not his fault, Tanner Glass. Alain Vigneault played Tanner Glass way too much. And Tanner is probably a great guy. But hands of stone, and not the best of the tough guys in terms of winning fights, which isn't really the key thing, but you start feeling bad when a guy's on the ice a lot and then he gets in a fight, which is like, okay, this is what they're paying him to do, and then he gets his ass kicked, and you're like, oh, man, I feel bad. So you felt bad for Tanner. At the same time, you're like, can't we put somebody else on the ice? Can we just get more sardines or something? Or are they like gremlins? Can we just water them after midnight or something? Can we just feed them before? I don't know how that works. It's always after midnight, so I don't understand how that works. 11, current Canuck, Alex Burrows. Burrows is playing great lately. Fine. When Burrows is off his game, you will yell at your television a lot. Because here's the thing. Fans of other teams in the league talk about how dirty a player Alex Burrows is. And they discuss it as if Canuck fans don't know this. And as if we don't think he's hurting the team when he's doing stupid shit while we're winning a game or while it's an important game. It's very frustrating to watch Burrows when he's not playing particularly well, and then he decides to start acting up and beaking off at the other bench, and it's like, okay, we're already losing 4-0. You want to make it 8? You want to piss them off now? Really? And number 12, here it comes, Ryan Kesler, for much the same reason. Kesler, when he was on, one of the best forwards ever. I would think if I was going to rank Canucks centers of all time, he's the best second-line center the Canucks have ever had, and he'd have to be in the top 5 of all-time centermen that have played for Vancouver. But my God, the embellishment to get penalties, his whining to the referees, his whining from the bench, his beaking off at the other team from the bench, his just the way he dove, and he would dive embarrassingly and then go looking for the penalty, and it's like, well, okay, Ryan, shut up. That wasn't even a trip. The guy's stick didn't touch you. You tripped over your skates. Leave it alone. And that was frustrating. And it was between him and Max Lapierre for that last spot. It was. Max Lapierre, close. Close. Now, on the blue line. So I've got the 4 lines of guys that I will spend the entire game yelling at. Those are my 4 lines of forwards. And I don't care who plays center or who's on the wings, because I'm just going to be yelling at them anyways. Defense, I'm going to start with the one that's going to upset the Flames fans. Wideman. Now with the Calgary Flames, Wideman was... I think my kids would have believed his first name was fucking when he played for the Bruins, based on the way I talked about him watching the Bruins in the playoffs. And I remember the one quote I remember the most is them saying, well, Wideman's having a really good game with Chara. And I went nuts. Watch that game. Like, what game are you watching? Chara's bailed him out over and over and over again, much like Carlo does for Chara now, because Chara's lost his step, and Carlo's doing his best as a rookie to cover for him, but it's not easy, because he's a rookie, and he's learning the game. But, man, Wideman was frustrating, and when the Bruins lost that 3-0 series lead over Philly, I zeroed in on Wideman on a lot of the goals. A lot of bad plays. A lot of times where it was like, okay, now Dennis, just dump it. Oh, you passed. Oh, look, it went right to the Flyers. Don't worry. Don't skate too hard because it's going in your net. So you can just skate off the ice. Just don't worry about it. Just, it's fine. It's fine. You needed a whistle. That goal will count as a whistle. Don't worry about it. We didn't need this game. It's fine. We're up 3-0. Oh, no, we aren't. We lost the game. Well, I lost the series in 7. Number 2 on this list is Robert Nordmark, Vancouver Canuck. I can't think of a defenseman that has ever been more polarizing more quickly than Nordmark was in Vancouver. He only lasted a couple years, but it felt like decades for those of us who watched him. It wasn't his fault. Again, it was the Canucks bringing over a European who didn't measure up. And this happens a lot, still happens, where a European comes over. Everybody's like, oh, this is great. This guy's coming over. He's from Europe. He's only 26. And it's like, but he's 26. Why didn't he come over before now? So, that always occurs to me, but that's fine. It's just me. Number 3, Tom Kurvers. Leafs fans just shuddered. I'm sorry. Tom Kurvers, I've said this before, was the only defenseman I ever could have seen that could have posted a negative plus minus when his team won by a shutout. He was just awful defensively. And there's a key thing. Announcers will never say, this guy's terrible at defense. They'll say he's adventurous. He takes risks. It's sometimes a challenge reining him in. When you hear those key phrases, that means this guy's awful without the puck. Curvers was a power play guy. He could score a lot of points, and he was frustrating as hell to watch. Number 4, Andrew Alberts. True story. I was not an Alberts fan when he was in Boston. I was like, Andrew Alberts, I'm not an Alberts fan. I can't handle it. Why is Alberts on the ice so much? I can't handle it. Then Vancouver signed him, and I was like, it's Isbister all over again. And it almost was. Alberts was better as a Canuck than he was as a Bruin. So before anybody from Canucks fans, fan base says anything about Alberts, he was a much better defenseman for Vancouver than he was for Boston. Now I want you to think about that. Think about how little he played in Vancouver and how few great plays he had. And he was much better as a Canuck than he was in Boston, where he made me angry regularly. And then, again, when a guy I don't like gets signed by one of my favorite teams, I always kind of groan. It doesn't mean I'm going to cheer for him. I don't have this mentality of, now that so-and-so is a member of, like, for instance, Kessler. Oh, Kessler gets traded to the Bruins. Well, I've had problems with Kessler in the past, but here's to hoping he has a great time as a Bruin, and now that he's a Bruin, I'm a fan of his. No. That's not how I work as a hockey fan. If I have certain players that drive me insane, they will drive me insane. And if they get signed by a team I like, I basically heave a deep sigh and go, all right, I'll deal with this. And maybe my opinion gets changed. Alberts was much better as a Canuck, but a lot of the time it's like, oh, I went through this already. That was my Isbister reaction, because he had played in, I believe it was Boston and then Vancouver. And I remember when he was in Boston, I'm like, oh, this kid, it just didn't work. Oh, good. Boston got rid of him. What do you mean Vancouver picked him up? And then number 5 on the defenseman list, and again, this is he may be a great guy, but he got overused. And again, I'm going to mention Vigneault, Aaron Rome. I'm taking a sip because all Canuck fans just agreed with me. Aaron Rome. Aaron Rome owes the money he made as an NHLer, especially if it was over $1 million in a season. I believe his last couple years in Vancouver, he got over $1 million. Half that money goes to Vigneault. Vigneault played him a lot, and I think Vigneault really liked Rome. And I was okay with it until the Stanley Cup Finals when they hit on Horton. I know. Canuck fans say, oh, it wasn't late, and every other fan in the world say it was. It's one of those polarizing arguments where fans of the one team are wrong and fans of the other 29 teams are right. Rome frustrated me a lot. On a related note to bad hits, you might be wondering, why isn't Raffi Torres on your list? Because Raffi Torres didn't frustrate me as a Canuck. I hated Raffi Torres as a Canuck. Couldn't stand him as a Canuck. And there's nobody on the Canucks, Dallas, or Boston right now that I hate. And even Marchand. He drives me nuts because I know he's better than this. But he's done some dirty things lately, and I can't defend him anymore, and I'm not even going to try. Because I'm just as angry as everybody else, so don't get mad at me. And number 6, sadly, this is a current Dallas Stars defenseman. I have started getting very angry watching Dallas games because Jamie Alexiak just is not an NHL defenseman. Oh, I watched him panic the other night, and he's making plays you would expect a brand new kid to make. Not somebody who's been on the fringes of the NHL for a few years and is ready to make his mark. No, we're talking behind his own net, passing it down the boards to nobody, skating out from behind his own net and wristing it to center ice, and there's nobody there. And whatever team they're playing just rearms themselves and comes in. And as a defenseman, part of your job coming out is to make sure you clear the puck far enough that your team's able to make a line change. Alexiak clearly is not able to do this. or he's just not comfortable. So maybe it's on Lindy Ruff, but I doubt it. Lindy Ruff has been a very good coach, and it's not his fault where Dallas is right now. He can't play goal, so it's not his fault. And Alexiak is just I don't see him as an NHL defenseman. He's got to get moved. Dallas has got to find a place to move him to, or his career's probably done. He's a big kid too. Like, I don't understand it. I really don't. I thought maybe after his sister had that fantastic Olympics that maybe Jamie be somehow inspired and say, oh, my sister's this big champ. I'm gonna this year's the year I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna buckle down. I'm gonna get my game rounded out, and I'm gonna be an NHL top 4 defenseman, or at least top 6. And he's playing his way to the minors. He's just been just I want to find, and I don't find anything in his game that I say, okay, this is encouraging. I've been looking, and it's not just him. There's other members of that defense corps that I kind of go, like Lindell. I'm not sold on Lindell. I know everybody's at the start of the year was, oh, Lindell. Not sold on Lindell, and I think Klingberg was overrated last year, and I think he's come back to earth this year. There's a lot of problems on that Dallas blue line, but Alexiak, yeah, he's on this list. Now in goal, I had to think, all right, which goalies have frustrated me the most? Not easy with Vancouver. Not easy, because there's a lot to choose from. Okay. I could have said Troy Gamble and gone a little bit off, because Troy Gamble wouldn't have frustrated me for what he was, but because concussions and other injuries derailed what was going to be a very good career. He was a very good goaltender. It's easy to forget that his first year, he looked pretty much as good as Kirk McLean, and this was when McLean was at the top of his game. So Troy Gamble, at the very least, looked like a 1B goaltender, if not a 1A somewhere down the road. And then the injuries started, and they just piled up. And his career was cut short, and it sucked. But he's not on this list, because the one goalie, Vancouver, who made me scream at the screen more than anybody else, Felix, the Cat Potvin. He's not the Boston goalie. I thought about it, because he did finish his career in Boston, and it was terrible. But Felix Potvin was very good with any team he played for about 20 games. Other than Toronto, he was fantastic for Toronto for years. And then it was like teams would remember, oh right, just shoot, just wrist it, just over his shoulder, and he'll miss it every time. And once those goals started going in, you could see it hit him, and mentally he'd start overcompensating, and he'd play further back in his net, and and then it was over. It was just over. I mean, last night, I'm trying to remember which game it was. I was flipping back and forth between a lot of games. It was Marc-Andre Fleury. And they showed how Fleury has started coming way out and challenging shooters, and how his confidence level has come up. And Potvin was one of the most extreme examples of the opposite, where he would almost retreat. It was like he allowed goals and he'd retreat. And you've got to come out and challenge the shooters and cut down the angle. And it was something that Potvin struggled with, and it was a struggle to sometimes watch games with him in net. And I would yell. So if you're expecting Cloutier, surprise, you didn't get Cloutier. Because Cloutier, a lot of it was injuries, and I don't blame Cloutier for a lot of things. Yeah, I know the goal from center ice was inexcusable, but there were a lot of bad goals allowed by a lot of better goalies too. Number 2 for Dallas, Kari Lehtonen. No, not Antti Niemi, because Niemi was brought in when it was already a shit show. Lehtonen's been frustrating because he's better than this. I know he's better than this. I've seen him play better than this. But something's happened mentally somewhere along the way. There was a playoff meltdown a couple years ago that it seemed to affect him, because his game hasn't been the same since then. And he has streaks where he starts playing better, and then it just drops for him again. And in the playoffs, he can't put 2 really good games together. I covered that in last spring's playoffs, where people are like, well, you're a Dallas fan. They were number 1, and they won last night, so aren't you happy? And I was like, no, because he's going to blow it tomorrow night. He'll get pulled in the first period. And then he did. So there's something that to me is mental. That's not the nuts and bolts of the game. That means there's something mentally with Lehtonen where he can't he can't put it together for more than one game. And I don't know if a trade out of Dallas would fix it, or if this is just a case of a goalie who's past it, and the team needs to move on, and maybe he needs to move on and refine him, discover who he needs to be. Maybe he needs to completely change his style. Goalies have done that later in life. Remember, Grant Fuhrer totally was a totally different goalie by the time he retired than the one that played in Edmonton in the 80s. He was actually a better goaltender when he reinvented himself than he had been in the Oilers in the 80s, but it wasn't as reported on because he wasn't winning Stanley Cups. And last, the Boston goaltender on the list, Blaine Locker, because he came in like a beast and he went out like a beast. He came in with that fire-breathing mask, and he was fantastic and great. And then the NHL figured him out, and it was over. And it was so frustrating to watch it just fall apart as quickly as it had come together. And Boston was all set to commit to Locker, and then he fell apart. So let me know in the comments section below which guys are on your list. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. And I will be back again very, very soon with more content. But again, let me know your team. So just like give me forwards, defensemen, and goalies who've made you pull your hair out. And if you're a Toronto fan, I know Phaneuf's on your list. I think he gets more guff than he deserves, but that's me. Let me know. And yeah, it's just a fun little thing I came up with last night. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all again soon.